Hi everyone, I'm Helen Farrelly from the MGA Communications team, and today we're joined by special guest, two-time World Drive champion and Lexus athlete, Jamie Sadlowski. Jamie, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, Jamie, I wanted to share with our members a little bit about you. And I know you grew up playing hockey, then playing golf. What's a little bit about your background and how did you get into these long drive competitions?
Yeah, so I grew up in Alberta, Canada. Obviously, our main pastime is hockey. So hockey was always the sport I played in the winter. And then I was obviously a big fan of golf, which our season is quite short, a couple months of the year where we're actually playing golf when the snow is gone. But I got into the World Long Drive Championships kind of by fluke. It's kind of a funny story. I'll try to shorten it. But what happened was my now brother-in-law was going to Edmonton, which is about 2 hours away, to compete in a local long drive qualifier for the World Championships. And we were going to go play golf after he got done. So I brought my clubs up, watched him qualify. And the guy that was running that site was actually a good friend of my dad's who he played hockey with. And he told me, hey, there's a junior category. You got your clubs. Why don't you hit a few? So I did, and I ended up qualifying. I hit it, I think, 365 yards. That qualified me for the district a few months later. And the kid that finished second in the world the year prior was there and ended up beating him out. And that's kind of how I punched my ticket to the Junior World Log Drive Championships. And one thing led to another. That would have been in 2003. 2004, I had a pretty solid finish as a junior. I think I finished third or fourth, and then I won back-to-back years in 2005, 2006. My now agent at the time was running the World Championship. He was the owner of the World Championship. He had invited me because of my first place finish in '06 to compete in the Open division, which is what we see on TV. And, I had a good showing there. And then one thing snowballed to another. I finished third in '07 as a 19-year-old, pretty wet behind the ears. And, it was something that came very naturally. And then I won back-to-back years in '08 and '09. So it kind of happened by fluke. Would I have found the World Championships if I didn't go up with my now brother-in-law? I'm not sure. But I guess all good things happen for a reason.
Absolutely. And how old were you in that first junior competition?
The first year I qualified, I think I had just turned 15 years old. And I just qualified with a standard golf club. I'm sure much of the amateurs that are going to be competing in the Lexus Long Drive Championships are going to have a standard golf club, 45 inches, which is fine. And then later, when I went back to the district, I was equipped a little bit better with the full length of 48-inch driver and a little better equipment to get the job done.
Well, it seems like you didn't even need it.
Yeah.
All right. So from 15 on, you kind of start competing in these long drive events. What is it like to compete in one of these, and what's your favorite part of a long drive championship?
Well, obviously, being a golfer my whole life, when this started, it was kind of something that resonated with me. I guess I consider myself to have a short attention span. Golf can be, a 5-6 hour round where it's quiet. You never let your emotions get too high or too low, pretty even keel just to post a score over 18 holes. Well, with long drive, it's much different. The adrenaline is way up when you step on the tee. At the time, it was 2 minutes and 45 seconds that you had to hit your 6 golf balls. So, a very short, sporadic time frame where you're up and up, like your adrenaline is kicked in. You're trying to hit it as far as humanly possible. Essentially, you have 6 mulligans, so you don't need to be perfect. You're just looking to hit it as far as humanly possible. So, the adrenaline factor and, not maybe having to be perfect. Obviously, to win one of these things, you got to be on. But from a very young age of when I started to compete, I was programmed for those 2 minutes and 45 seconds to do what I needed to do to move to the next round or to get to the semis or to win a world championship. So, has that helped me in my regular golf game? Probably not, because from such a young age, that I wasn't locked in for 6 hours. I was locked in for 2 minutes and 45 seconds. But again, it's an adrenaline rush when you're stepping on the tee and you hit one flush and you have a couple more balls left to improve that number. It's kind of go for broke, but there is also definitely a strategy to, I guess, get the most out of you in that time frame as well.
Wow, I bet that is probably the fastest 2 minutes and 45 seconds. It goes by pretty quick.
It happens quick. There's music pumping. It's not like, there's no silent signs up. I mean, there's people yelling, you're yelling. It's definitely different than your normal round of golf.
Speaking of trying to hit it as far as humanly possible, what is the longest drive you've hit?
So again, in long drive, there's a lot of conditions that come into factor. You talk about wind, you talk about temperature, you talk about grid firmness and everything like that. So, there's a few shots that stand out to me. In 2008, when I won, I hit it 418 yards in the desert at nighttime into a little bit of a wind, which was, still stands out. I still remember that feeling when I hit that golf ball, and it was, as flush as I've ever hit one. There's been years where we had it downwind a bit in the fall, and I hit it 465, which the grid ran out at. So it was hitting the back fence. I believe I hit 4 of 6 that hit the back fence at 465 yards. So that was probably the longest in competition. But again, conditions vary as far as turf conditions, and obviously wind plays a huge factor in that. The difference between when I won in 2008, when I hit it 418 versus that 465, they're pretty much the same golf shot, hit the same, just conditions, allowed for an extra 40 or 50 yards.
Interesting. Yeah, even more than you would think about, I guess, with the elements and the conditions. For most golf fans who might watch the PGA Tour, there's always a lot of talk and graphics on players' swing speed. How much does swing speed come into play when you're hitting it over 400 yards? And do you know what your average swing speed is?
Yeah, obviously swing speed is what makes the ball go far. The more club head speed, and obviously the precision of the strike is a huge factor. But when I was competing, so I haven't competed since 2015. That's when I retired to play professionally full time. But that last year, I averaged about 150 miles an hour of club head speed, which transitions into about 220 miles an hour of ball speed. The average tour professional, I believe, used to be 116. It's probably a little bit higher now with all the technology and how everyone is training nowadays. So, it's 35 miles an hour faster than your average tour professional. Obviously, Bryson's changing that a bit, where he's swinging in the mid 130s, low 140s. But yeah, club head speed is king. If you don't have club head speed, it's hard to create distance. Club head speed is one of the most important things in a long drive competition. There's no question.
So we've talked a lot about long drives. Have you measured distance of you hitting with a wedge or any other clubs, how far you can get those?
Yeah, definitely. Playing now, I've obviously backed my swing off a little bit. When you have to hit it and find it, it's a little bit different than just having to hit it. But a comfortable pitching wedge for me when I'm playing tournament golf is 165 yards. I obviously still have a couple extra gears that I have access to, so I can still hit a pitching wedge on a dead and calm day, 185 yards if I need to. So, the one luxury about speed is, especially playing professionally now, is that club can go, I can hit it 130 yards or I can hit it 185 yards. So speed is a huge factor. It's a huge positive when it comes to, playing golf as well as competing in the World Long Drive Championships.
Definitely. So what is a practice session for you like back when you were competing regularly in long drive championships? I mean, how do you prepare for an event like that?
Yeah, one thing that I always did was when I had turned it into a full-time job, I was doing a ton of corporate outings. So doing 70 to 75 corporate outings a year, which involved some trick shots. And also I'd obviously hit it, far at the end of my show. And that was more so just to kind of get my body right, being on the road and traveling every day or, a few times a week was taxing on the body. So to me, I would do a lot of training as far as keeping my body limber, loose. And then I never overdid it because, swinging a golf club 150 miles an hour is hard on your body. So I would take time away in a day. I may hit, 20 to 30 drives where I took my time. I went through the process of, trying to play out the best scenario of if I was in that competition and not, rush through it. It was more so quantity or quality over quantity. So 30 drivers, and I'd, try and envision what I was doing and make sure I'm doing everything properly as far as, have a good pre-shot. If you're going off, in 2 minutes and 45 seconds, I try to take 20, 25 seconds per shot, not rush. One of the last things you want to do is have the clock to where there's still a minute and a half and you got one ball left. Well, you've just rushed for no reason. So, if it's 6 balls, divide that clock from 2:45 and take your time and make sure it's quality over quantity. But I also would suggest not overdoing it when you're practicing. Like I said, I may hit 150 balls a week, I guess, as hard as I could. And that was about it. There's times where I was struggling. Maybe it's more, and times where I was really into it, it may be less. So quality over quantity would be my suggestion.
Got it. Yeah, I would imagine that would really take a toll when you're swinging as hard as possible for so many practice sessions.
Yes, definitely.
So you have traveled all over the world competing professionally and in long drive competitions. Have you spent a lot of time in the New York area? And what are some of your favorite courses in this area?
Yeah, I have spent some time in New York in the area. I've actually done a few Lexus outings in the Hamptons. So I've been to Sabonic. I've been to Shinnecock. I haven't played Bethpage. It's on my bucket list for sure. But there's so many great tracks out there. I'd say Shinnecock would probably be one of my favorite golf courses. And then Need to Play would probably be Bethpage, just with all the history of hosting the Open and how challenging it is. And obviously being a longer hitter, it's a place that I would love to play one day for sure.
Yeah, we have to get you out there next time you're in the area.
I would love to.
It's a bucket list course for sure. So what's kind of next for you? What's going on now? You're competing professionally, still traveling. What's your schedule looking like?
Yeah, so I've been on the PGA Tour Canada for the last 4 years. Obviously, with the pandemic, it's put a wrench into our plans for really 2 years. I haven't played since 2019 on the Canadian Tour. Last week was our first tournament in over 650 days, I believe. So I was in Montreal last week playing. I finished 6th, so it was a really nice start to the year. We have 8 events on the schedule this year throughout Canada. I'm on a couple weeks off right now. Next event's in Toronto, and then a couple in Prince Edward Island. And then we come out west, closer to home. So we go Saskatchewan, an event in Calgary, Alberta, and then 2 in British Columbia. So it's a pretty busy summer. And then in the midst of all that, I have first stage of Corn Ferry Tour School, which is going to be 3rd week of September in Arizona. So from going pretty stagnant with COVID and the pandemic to not playing to having a very, very busy next 3 or 4 months anyways. So a lot of golf on the horizon.
Yeah, this summer is going by so fast with the schedule. Still can't believe it's August already.
Yes.
We'll be rooting.
Time flies.
I know. We'll certainly be rooting you on in a lot of upcoming events. So kind of lastly, this is the first time we are hosting our Lexus Long Drive Championship. We're really excited to have some of the best and longest hitting amateurs in our metropolitan New York area come out and compete. What advice do you have for some of these amateurs who are going to register and come compete it could be their first event like this?
Yeah, for sure. First off, you have a great partner in Lexus. They've been a great partner of mine for 7+ years. So they're an amazing company to work with. For anyone that's new to the sport, I think my biggest piece of advice, and it took me a while to learn and understand, but depending on how many shots they have, one of the things that I always focused on was early in my set. I would take my time, and as soon as you step on that tee box, adrenaline kicks in, and the last thing you want to do is start over swinging. And to me, what I tried to do in my mind was swing 80%, which with adrenaline is actually 100 to 105%. So already, if you think you're going slow, you're actually probably maxed out. So get your first one or two golf balls in. Always have a mark, set a mark, because if you're competing against someone, you need to build off that number. And the first thing you want to do is put a ball on the grid. Doesn't matter if it's your best or not, but have one in play. And then from there, you can build up and try to, improve that yardage every swing you have. But adrenaline plays a huge factor. You may not think it. Swing 80% early in the set, get a ball in play, and then you can have that more of a go for broke feel and really feel like you're getting after it once you have a number that you like. But priority number one, get one ball in play and then try to build off of it.
Awesome. All right. Good advice. We're excited to see how everybody does and root everyone on.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing some results for sure.
Yeah, me too. All right, Jamie, thank you so much for taking the time today. It was really interesting to learn a little bit more about your career, get some advice, and we definitely have to get you out on the black next time you're in the area. So good luck the next few weeks, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate it.